Hello and welcome to the Exclamation Mark podcast, the podcast that always patches on day one. I am Crofton Steers, your host here for an adventure into the minds of two interested and interesting gamers, video game players, that is. One is myself, who you already know. The other is my compatriot, Bo Schwartz, who I welcome now. Bo!
Greetings, Internet! Greetings, podcast universe! Hello, everyone! I bid you good day. Wait, you say that at the end of something, not when you're saying hi. Anyways, hello, hi, welcome to Exclamation Mark Podcast. Excited, I am.
It's funny because you have your radio voice, but that was like your theater voice.
Yeah, that was my theater voice.
And
Masterpiece Theater.
And theater people wonder why nobody likes them.
Anyway, today's tagline is about patching on day one, and you made it sound like a good thing, but if we always have to patch on day one, doesn't that mean our releases are uniformly botched? And
perhaps,
go bad?
And if so, we would like to apologize. And I feel like apologies is going to be the theme of the week this week. I definitely, while we're all still in the remnants of E3, I think it's been a bit of a slow news week. But there are some notable stories, and we should highlight some of them. Mostly apologies in our first segment, which is readme.txt.
readme.txt.
Three Bothams died bringing you that intro.
I don't know what a Botham is. What is a Botham?
It's whatever was responsible for getting the Death Star plans in Star Wars.
Okay. Gotcha.
You have very low geek cred, but that's okay. I'll still work with you. So there's a couple of apologies this week in gaming. Bo, do you want to start us off with the big one?
All right. Well, the big one, the one that I haven't stopped hearing about, even though I've tried to, is Batman Arkham Knight on PC. It has a tanked review score on Steam, and if you read it, has nothing to do with the game. It has to do with customer dissatisfaction. And every gaming news site everywhere is talking about how the game isn't working, that a lot of PC players are finding their experience to be unplayable. That being said, I have encountered a few Twitch streamers who have perfectly fine experience with the game, so there's a bit of a disconnect there. But for the most part, this is a big news item. It was so bad that actually, I don't know if it's Rocksteady or Warner Brothers, but the makers of Arkham Knight have pulled the game from PC platform sales, have frozen sales until they fix it and relaunch it appropriately. That's more breaking news. I mean, there has been a lot of apologies since day one, I think, from the makers of the game. But
I think the first thing was that they didn't really apologize. They came out with their fix being pretty much turn down the graphics, which is possibly the worst thing you can say to a PC gamer, equivalent to insulting their mothers. Actually, it's probably worse than that. But yeah, they came out and made recommendations on how you could get it running smoothly for you as they looked into problems. They didn't strike very much of a humility type tone. It was really kind of like, just, we're going to take a look at this. And as information began to trickle out, they also pointed the finger at the sort of third-party company that ported the game. But they wouldn't reveal who the company was. It turns out it was this developer called, I think, Iron Galaxy or something, that had previously badly ported Batman Arkham Origins. And when that happened, there was a lot of fuss as well, where they kept announcing new DLC, but they weren't announcing fixes to problems. So people had that fresh in their mind. So it's kind of been quite the debacle. Finally, they had to take this big step back and say, we are pulling the game from our store. And let's face it, no company wants to do that. They figure that this is the best way to show that they're taking the issue seriously. Rocksteady is now working with the porting company to update the game. And so, I mean, it's really shows them nobody taking PC seriously. And the third party company, from my understanding, felt that they didn't have much time to port the game. They got the finished code, and then to port it to PC, they didn't have that much time. So, I mean, it just shows taking PC gamers kind of for granted on this, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that they probably could. One assumes that they throw it up on at least a small variety of systems or cards before it goes live in order to ensure that it has a maximum reach at least. Like I think every game that gets released has devices because computers vary so much have you know instances where it won't work. Like I think it's expected, but I think a lot of PC gaming companies try and put out products where this kind of thing is minimal. And so it's a pretty big oversight for it to be affecting so many people. Yeah, and I don't know
And
that they,
that's the risk of the PC platform, is that it's multi SKU. Like you have a different tons of people have different cards, different things. But I guess the collective understanding is that this game was broken for a lot of players. So I mean it's great that some guys can run it properly on Twitch. Kudos to them. But there's some people with power PCs that are just unable to run the game practically at all. So
yeah.
I mean,
Well, good timing on the Steam return policy because, and there might
yeah,
be,
no
if you bought
kidding.
it from somewhere else, there might not be a return policy on these digital lockers. So
Well,
you might just be hoping and praying for them to do that. I feel like Rocksteady is a game company, at least with some credibility. Like I feel like they put out quality products and they want people to enjoy those quality products. And I don't think they're out to rip people off. I expect at the very least that what the actions that they've taken is what they're doing. Like, I expect that from them to be fixing this issue and patching it. Where like some games might release and they'll just be like, whatever, maybe we'll fix it sometime. But I don't know. This is a big IP for Warner Brothers. It's Warner Brothers that published this one, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big IP for them. It's a lot of bad PR. It's all because there's nothing happening in the wake of E3. Like I perused the news today, and I was like, there is nothing that interesting compared to
But
the
this
past. But this is everywhere.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal because I mean, like, there's fewer and fewer huge game launches, and everybody knows I was really excited about Arkham Knight, and The Witcher has sidelined me. Also, a Warner Brothers game, published game, incidentally, has sidelined me. But I would have been a day one purchaser, and earlier this year, I was trying to soup up my PC in preparation for The Witcher, in preparation, in particular, for Arkham Knight. And I had some problems with that because sometimes working on PCs is a huge pain in the ass. And in the end, I got a PS4, and I always intended Arkham Knight to be a game that I would play on that system just because it's very console friendly. And so I would have gotten it on PS4, and that's where my sort of priority lay.
Yeah.
But I think that the developers, in this case Rocksteady, also their priority was on the console market. That's where they're going to make their money. And so the idea was to port it to PC with whatever time that they had left. So I think it shows that PC gamers weren't held in high regard. And while I agree it's good about the Steam refund, I think other companies, I read Green Man Gaming or something, is quickly trying to adapt because everybody wants a refund. So tons of people are asking for refunds. And even though they know the game will probably be fixed, I think like fool me once and a lot of people are out the door, right?
I think there's some as a consumer. I think it's perfectly legitimate for people to want.
Yeah.
It's like
I
even
agree.
if I knew that Rocksteady, I was confident, like with every fiber of my being, they do not deserve my money until they give me the product they promise, not some vague resemblance of what the product is supposed to be. So we all know that a game's never guaranteed good or bad until the reviews come in, so that you can't pin that on a company. But stuff like this, absolutely. So
And
yeah.
some of the reviews on the PC version are already I've seen a lot of publishers are just holding off on reviewing it, which I think is like, no, you got to review it and what they put it out. And maybe by pulling it back that they're delaying those reviews. The Metacritic rating of the actual reviewers and not just people raging is low on the PC version, but it's not as low as probably it would be if they didn't pull it off the store. Um, I find one thing that's probably frustrating about this is like right now I'm not playing Arkham Knight because I'm into another game, but I'm planning on playing it as soon as I'm done that game. And Arkham Knight has mysteries and stories in it, and I am desperately trying to avoid being spoiled. I'm going on the internet trying to avoid spoilers all the time, and it's like dodging bullets. Every site, it's like, oh, don't read this if you haven't gotten this far in.
I think you better just start playing Arkham Knight.
No, 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 no. I'm not going to do that. So the problem with that is that PC gamers are kind of getting hosed on this, right? So they're in a situation where they either played on a console or like they're probably gonna get spoiled before they have a chance to play
I
the
see
game.
what you're saying. Like, there's a chance that something big gets leaked out and they get spoiled because
Yeah.
who knows how long they're going to be optimizing the game for. If they pulled it off of the shelves, I don't imagine it's for a few days. I imagine it's for at least a month.
Yeah, so we'll see. I bet their priority is getting it back as soon as possible. But I have a better understanding now for why Rockstar takes so long to release like their Grand Theft Autos on PC and stuff, because at least they do a goddamn good job. So
Yeah, if they're gonna ask for $70 a pop plus all that DLC stuff, I don't know. They need to release quality product. All right. Speaking of quality products, we have more in the apology gallery.
yeah, I'll do this one. So Destiny, console shooter made by Bungie, launched last year. The at E3 made a big splash. There's still a sizable amount of people playing Destiny. It's got its hooks in tons of people, and they're releasing an expansion called The Taken King this September, which I think is sort of like the equivalent of them having like Destiny 2 or whatever. Instead of releasing a new game, they're just releasing a sizable expansion.
Yeah.
Now the thing is that they promised a series of versions of which you can get the expansion, including a collector's version, and that collector's edition includes the base game. It included the Taken King DLC, and it included a bunch of doohickeys that you could get nowhere else. And it included all the DLC that had come out thus far for the game. So day one players were legit upset that the only way that they could get a little bit of the content, and it was junky content, like it's 3 emoticon like waves and stuff, and like a couple of different capes or some stuff like that. The only way that they could get it is if they bought a collector's edition, therefore rebuying content that they already owned, the base game and all the DLC. So that was the only way they could get that content. So they rightfully were pissed off about that. And finally, after some poor communication, Bungie's community managers walked it back and pretty much apologized and have now made those things available for singular purchase. Still very expensive and really not giving much in the way of anything to the community except like clarifying things and making their doohickeys available for purchase. But I just find it funny how as gamers become adults, and gaming used to be like sort of more of a kid's pastime, and there are more and more adults playing, the marketing and communication and all that shit is really important. Both this Arkham Knight thing and the Destiny thing, 2 in 1 week. And just the past year, Assassin's Creed Unity, and everything that followed that, like they've had issues with Call of Duty's communications surrounding map packs, all this sort of stuff.
So if I understand correctly, it's like they did a battle chest edition of Destiny, right? Like the Blizzard battle chests. And there was a special edition battle chest with extra stuff. But if you had already been a fan from day one, in order to get that bonus content, you had to go back and buy the battle chest, which is really expensive still.
Imagine you love your StarCraft. Imagine there
was a bonus in the third one, and I had to buy the first 2 games over again to get it.
Or even, yeah, exactly. That's it. Like, let's say in the Zerg one that's coming out, you had to get like Protoss, whatever.
I need to get you back for that nerd cred slam earlier. You don't know what Protoss and Zerg are?
For the Protoss one, let's say you can get like a new armor for your hero, but the only way you can get that is if you buy the battle chest edition that comes with the 3 games, right? That's how people. So in the way they're trying, it's like phone companies that offer you the best deal to get you in, and then once you're in, they treat you like shit, and they only give the great deals to the new people coming in.
Well,
That's
because I read the article and hearing you explain it, it makes a lot of sense to me. Except like what you're saying makes sense. What they did is stupid because Blizzard has like a lot of companies will look at Blizzard and say they're a good example of a company that does well in the PC gaming space and just generally. They do this all the time. They release Diablo, they have a collector's edition. When there's an expansion, they release the expansion and a collector's edition of the expansion. If you do it on your releases and not on your like no one who does that? A collector's edition and then like re-release all of your games in a collection. Let's say it's like Mass Effect trilogy. Is there a collector's edition version of the Mass Effect trilogy? That's dumb. Like it's already special. Like it's horrifying that you would take like the point of a collector's edition is that to me you were there on the day and date it was released. Nobody gives a crap if you bought a fifth run of a book. They want the first edition of the book. Like the event is the point. That's the collector's edition to me. Crazy. Somebody at Destiny is like smoking something weird, like for doing the pricing, because it could have done simply make the expansion the collector's edition, make it an extra $30 if you're a huge fan of Destiny. The expansion's $40, but if you pay $70, then you get all this stuff. For you people just getting in, here's a cheap way to get started. And if you want to keep playing by the it's like this kind of pricing is out there and very simple, and they're like, let's be stupid about this. That's just my opinion. I just think it's the really poor decision making on their pricing.
I don't understand your thing. Like
you can make expansions collector's editions, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. It's the Destiny, the Taken King collector's edition and it comes with the original Destiny and all these doohickeys and stuff.
No, sorry. Collector's edition is when you get the bonus stuff, but there's like a collection. Like I'm talking about solo expansion. And a solo expansion collector's edition. So it's just the expansion plus the bonus content.
Oh, okay.
No, like if you're repackaging the old games, just repackage them. Don't make any special bonus offers, collector's editions, special hoo-has, whatever. Put it on your new releases. Make the new releases special. There's no reason to be saying like, Crofton, you bought the Mass Effect trilogy, right? Yes. Would you have bought a collector's edition Mass Effect trilogy?
I would have if it was better than the Mass Effect trilogy, which had literally nothing in it except like the 3 games. It barely had any DLC or anything. If they had a collector's edition with all the DLC, I would have bought that instead.
Oh, okay. Well, they should have all just been in the base game.
Yeah,
the point is like so, like I have Arkham City, which we're going to talk about later, Game of the Year edition. It's got all the DLC. I don't got to think about it. That's how you do. Like their company's doing this right. Why can't everyone else do it right? I mean,
it's funny. I don't mean to harp on this, but that's exactly what Destiny did, though. That's what they're doing. They're releasing a year later. You get the game, you get the expansion pack, you get all the DLC that was released during the year, and you get like a couple of new doohickeys.
Yeah, but the people who already own the game don't get it.
Pardon me?
The people who already own the game up to that point don't get the extra doohickeys, is what you're saying. They have to buy the game over again.
Well, they'd want the expansion. Everybody has to buy the expansion, so that they would buy the expansion pack because they own everything else. They bought the DLC when it came out. They bought the game when it came out, and they buy the expansion pack. They'd get the expansion pack, but those doohickeys that came with the collector's edition, which was the base game, the expansion pack, all the DLC and all that, that would only go to the new players, right? That go in through this collector's edition.
Or the old player who bought the old collection of games.
Who ended up rebuying content.
What I'm saying is that those extra doohickeys should just be on the expansion. And they shouldn't they should do a collection of old games, but not put extra stuff in a collection of old games.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because that's dumb. That is dumb. Like capital D dumb.
And it is exactly like I said, the cell phoneification, the like when you call like Rogers or Bell here in Canada, you get as a new customer, they'll throw everything at you to get you in the door because that's what they want. They want to suck you in that Destiny door. So then you're buying all their DLCs when they come out. You're buying their new expansions when they come out. It's just like they're trying to make a gateway drug as enticing as possible.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they're doing that on the backs of their dedicated fans, and that's where I have problems. But then I think everybody did, and they've apologized, and they're selling it. They're selling it separately. But it's just these companies need to learn how to get new players and not piss off their old fan base. And I agree with you; it shouldn't be that complicated.
I just think there's a lot of companies that already know how to do that, and it just seems like such a dumb mistake to me.
But I wouldn't blow Blizzard for doing like being the model. I find there's been tons of times where they've screwed people or like, you just mentioned the flying mounts the other day, right? Like, so I mean, there's plenty of they're not a model. Everybody learns as they go, right? And so it's just that Activision, the company that runs Destiny, they've been pumping Call of Duty out the door every year. You'd think they would know better. That's my take. But yeah, so lots of apologies. I'm sorry for all the apologies.
Yeah, I'm just sorry that they're happening. Mistakes will happen. I think customers are forgiving to companies that are awesome about their mistakes. But yeah, and these both seem like companies that do care about their product and about their consumer bases. So we're going to talk about one that is even worse a little bit later in the show. But let's move on, shall we? So something a little more positive and lighter. A dude bought Fallout 4 on pre-order with over 2,000 bottle caps. And as someone who didn't I think I might start playing Fallout 3 at some point in the near future. I don't get the bottle cap reference other than it's a currency in the game, so I had it explained to me.
That's the currency.
And Bethesda always has these nice interest piece articles, like they had the kid who was named Dovahkiin. Right around when Skyrim was released, it was a big deal that there was a baby being called Dovahkiin. And they gave them free swag for calling their kid that or something like that. And so now we have another, what is it? An interest piece, like on, your local news, a local interest piece on a guy who charmingly saved up bottle caps over 4 years. And I think it was about 11 pounds in bottle caps. And he's getting the game for free. How about that?
One thing I find about this is I find that it offers a good counterpoint to what we just discussed. Because essentially the only reason this is being publicized is because it is a marketing coup for Bethesda. And it shows, it rewards a fan's loyalty and ingenuity. And B, it allows them to appear like a good guy type company. And I find it's funny because that puts it in sort of like you said, the lighter kind of squirrel trying to learn how to swim news at the end of the newscast, as opposed to being upfront big news about stuff gone wrong, right? Like, so they're both marketing stories. The Arkham Knight stuff, the Destiny stuff, and this, they're all stories about video game marketing, but this is a story about it done right, or a positive story as opposed to the bad stories we saw earlier. And I'll remind you that not maybe 3 episodes ago, we were talking about Bethesda with regards to mods and PCs and trying to monetize mods with Valve and all this sort of thing, giving them shit. The whole gaming community was collectively giving them shit. And today they're coming out smelling like roses from a very easy thing to do, giving one guy a free copy of the game and sort of publicizing it. So it goes to show you how important marketing is in video games.
Absolutely. And Bethesda has been owning the news cycle lately. Oh my God.
Since E3 and before, they've been killing it.
Yeah.
Killing it. I agree, man.
Granted, they've got some great games coming out of their studio, so could be worse. Yeah, I think that's it for the news. Unless you have anything more you want to add before we move on.
Sweet. No, I'm good, man. We talked a lot about all the apologies, but I'm ready to talk about what I'm playing.
You're always talking about making kids' minds like vegetables. Talk about them out on the street smoking pot.
This is Games Per Minute.
How do you feel about cutting his head off? One.
All right, this is Games Per Minute, where we're going to talk about what we've been playing. And I've been playing a lot of games, and I'm not going to apologize. That being said, I've been busy pretty busy doing other things, but I still always manage to find time to play games. So first, before I get into the big thing, I'm addicted to Fallout Shelter.
Really,
But
eh?
I think
I'm playing that too.
yeah. So we'll let you talk about it, and
No,
then
no,
I'll bounce it off you. And
let's talk about it.
all
We
right,
just talked about Bethesda right now. So do you like it?
Fallout Shelter. It's fun. It's charming. I don't have to play it for very long periods of time. It's kind of like a hey let me I'm waiting to get my hair cut at the barbershop. That didn't happen, but I'll pull it out and check on my dudes and do all this kind of stuff. It gives me like a game. Playing a game without having to invest too much time into it. So I really enjoy it. I don't have I went very slow because I tried to expand too fast and I killed like 23 people. They're just all dead. It's like,
Really, I haven't had anybody die yet, but I'm scared shitless of that happening.
yeah. Well, I mean, they just die. Eventually they rot and go away and you just rebuild. Like it's not a big deal. They're just people. You're an overseer. They're your tools.
See, I find it's like at first I didn't understand how the time management went in that game. Like if I suspend my phone, like is it still going in real time? And if so, who's going to collect all the energy and all that sort of stuff I generate with my base? Who's going to some of my things were in the red, like what was going to happen? I was all very concerned about that, but then I realized like you can turn it off and I think it just goes for a little bit and then kind of waits for you to come back. Which is nice because I was stressed, man. This game was stressing me out.
Really?
Yeah. Oh God, yes. Because it started and it was fun, and all the guys. There's people that walking up to my vault door, and they're coming in, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun or whatever. And it looked like, sort of like the base design of XCOM or whatever, where you see the side of your base and you build you build stuff. I was sort of like, oh, this is cool. But then next thing you know, I'm missing water and people are getting thirsty and then their health's going down and then my power's going out and all this. And I'm starting to freak out and I'm like, oh my God, how do I do this? And I'm trying to learn the rules of the games as people start starving and all. And I was like, man, this is, and you've got to I'm playing on an iPhone, which is probably be better to play on an iPad. You'd get more screen real estate. But on the phone, it's like, I can't see, I'm like, what's going on half the time? Is this guy starving or is this guy, bandits suddenly break in, they start killing my dudes, anyway, it was a lot of stress, I thought.
Yeah. Like there's a lot going on initially. Maybe I've gotten to a place where it's about stability and balance. So everyone has guns, everyone's got armor. I've got one person out collecting stuff, and it's not a big colony, but it's stable ecosystem. So I just go in, pick up my resources, and usually everything's fine. So, and I try to grow really slowly. I have a radio station that can bring in people. I don't do the birthing thing because
I don't have that.
I find that the birthing thing sort of indisposes people and you got to manage it, where the radio thing is just like, oh, I didn't play for 2 days. Let me check. Oh, someone's in. Let me add them. And,
oh, that's perfect. I want one of those.
Yeah. And it's funny because the people in the radio station are right near the entrance and they're wearing nightwear. So it's like you get to this Fallout and it looks like a crazy sex place or something. It's like very charismatic in their nightwear. And it's,
sounds like a bow place.
Yeah, exactly. A hedonistic den of sin, as Mike might describe. Yeah, me. But it's fun. I think it's a great little casual game. I've been on a dry spell where I haven't played any iOS games at all, except for Hearthstone. I don't like Hearthstone on the iOS that much personally.
I like it.
I prefer it on PC, but this is a game I'm actually playing, so it's fun.
Yeah, I like it too. I just
it feels like a piece of marketing a bit.
Well, I just wonder what now right now I'm trying to survive. I'm desperately clinging to survival. Yeah. But I've got a couple of pregnant ladies, ready to go anytime. But aside from that,
it's so gross.
I don't know what to do long term. I guess there's no long term goal of the game, and I would like it if there was in XCOM, your base building is only part of an overall.
You're trying to save the world. There's this narrative mission, and
I almost feel like this game could fit inside of Fallout 4 somehow. I feel like it would be kind of cool if, you could maybe you manage your, like, you're going to be able to build your shelter and build bases and stuff like that in Fallout 4. Like, I think it'd be cool if you could manage that through the app. I was thinking about this playing The Witcher the other day.
Yeah.
In The Witcher, you and in like Skyrim, you find a lot of books. But I never get around to reading them because honestly, I'd rather just play the game. Uh, but uh, but I would like it if there was an app that allowed me to read the books that I've collected in game, like on my phone or on a tablet
Oh,
or
okay.
something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I could totally, I like what they've done with Fallout Shelter. And like when I saw you were excited about the base building aspects of Fallout 4, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh shit, I'm not going to want to do that. I'm going to want to go out and adventure. And, but if there was a way to do that on my tablet, you know, maybe I'd be keen and I could, you know, I'd probably be keen on that.
Well, that integration would actually be really great, but I just think I don't see it ever happen. There's been a lot of talk about stuff like that. I don't think it's going to work out to do that cross-platform sort of integration into games that way, because you'd have to have an always online experience and in Fallout 4, and I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's what we're getting. Although there is going to be online co-op in Fallout 4, is that right?
Oh, I don't know. I'm too busy playing.
I know
The Witcher.
I know there's a Skyrim mod to add 2-player co-op to the campaign. I don't think they're done yet, but certainly the idea of sharing that world with someone seems like a lot of fun to me. But the big news for gaming for me, what I've been playing this week, is I played Arkham City.
Finally, Bo, you did it.
So
After
I have a
10 years
question
of
for you,
telling
by the way. You bought this for me as a Christmas gift 4 years ago, maybe a long time
No,
ago.
I think it must. I think it's more like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, and for some reason, I own 2 copies of Arkham City.
Oh, fuck off, Bo.
I have I looked in my library and I have Arkham City and I have Arkham City Game of the Year edition. And I can't figure out, like, maybe there was some deal upgrade to Game of the Year for a couple bucks or something. Like, I would never buy a game twice. I have so many games in my library. Like, I don't have Fallout 3 twice. I've got Game of the Year Fallout 3. I don't have regular Fallout
You
3.
probably bought like an Arkham anthology. You said you had Origins and you didn't know how you got that either.
That's true. I don't know how I got Origins.
So you probably bought some sort of package sometime.
Yeah, anyway, okay, so whatever. Anyway, I was just wondering if maybe, I want to know if you bought the Game of the Year edition or
I'm
the
pretty
regular
sure
edition.
I'm pretty sure I bought you the Game of the Year edition.
Okay.
What is that ding?
Sorry, it's me, my computer. It's a messaging service. Nothing to see behind the curtain here. Okay, so yeah, Arkham City, amazing game. You know, I kind of wanted to relax and just play a game for a little bit when I started playing it. I was like, I'm gonna finally check out Arkham City. I just want to play for a few hours and get a feel for it. And that game, man, okay. So superhero games, there's tons of them, and they're all universally kind of mediocre. Then you get Batman, and it feels like the people who make these Arkham games, Rocksteady, like that particular, say, what is it that makes being a Batman awesome? It's kind of in the movies, but it's not. It's also in the comics, and it melts together this aesthetic from the TV, the cartoon and comic side of things, and the movie side of things. And makes it amazing. The voice actor that plays Batman sounds like this, you know, has almost like a square kind of, I'm an adult kind of voice. But then he gets angry, and it's amazing, you know.
But you know he's the long-time voice actor of the Batman animated series TV show, right?
It doesn't surprise me to hear. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, just like our childhood in the 90s, he's been voicing Batman.
But, you know,
so I mean,
the Christopher Nolan movies have been around, and some creative director might be like, hey, we need a gritty Batman for our gritty adult game. And they're like, no, we're preserving the comic book aesthetic. And I played Arkham Asylum a long time ago. I remember liking it there. But they've, like, stepped it up a notch in Arkham City. Like,
Well, it depends what you like, because there's a lot of people who will say that Arkham Asylum is the best game, and their reasoning for that is that Arkham Asylum is essentially a Metroidvania, which is that you are in the asylum and you can only access certain areas when you have certain pieces of equipment and so
yeah,
forth and so on.
yeah.
Whereas Arkham City is an open world game, and there's sort of subquests going on, things to investigate, other
It's an
things than the
open
main
world
plot.
game without a car. It's GTA without a car, which, in my understanding, is Arkham Knight. Is you get a car and you get to drive around in the open world.
Right. Neither Bo or I have played Arkham Knight.
No,
So
but
we
my sense is that yes, it was definitely more open world, which is a mark against it in my books. I prefer the
well,
Metroidvania.
it is an open world game.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, it totally is. It's just like, but you didn't like so you prefer the environment of something like Arkham Asylum over something like Arkham City.
Yeah, just because I don't need to travel. Like, it's like, oh, now here and go do this. Okay, great. So let me travel there. Mind you, it's the best open world game because of the I don't know what with the uses the back claw or whatever to you can fire yourself into the air and just fly around. Like,
Traversal is fun.
yeah, like getting around, flying around buildings. It's almost kind of like Spider-Man. Like, you're not Spider-Man, but it's similar. You shoot off, you jump off
Yeah.
a building, and even as Catwoman, because you play, I don't know if that's in the base game, but I have the Catwoman, I guess DLC or something. Her traveling around, traversing the city is really amazing too. And it's all the controls are very responsive. So key to a game like this is it feeling very natural and
Thumb
very
candy.
like it's not like, oh, sorry, you can't hit that ledge because it's technically not a ledge that allow. It's just like, whatever, fly around, do all kinds of stuff. It's so fun. But the best part about it is the experience of being Batman. Flipping upside down off a gargoyle in order to string a guy up is awesome. Walking into a room with 50 thugs and just being like, all right, which bones do you want me to break is amazing. And the fact that you don't kill people is even better. Like, it just takes everything about Batman and makes you really get hooked into it and doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, it's not trying to teach me any moral lessons about anything. It's just trying to be Batman, and I loved it.
I don't normally get into a lot of the extra content surrounding open world games in particular. Like, it depends. We talked about it with Sleeping Dogs. I found that there's three types with regards to Batman Arkham City. So there's the Riddler challenges. There's the challenge rooms, which are like either combat or predator challenges you do sort of outside of the game.
Okay.
And there's and then there's these side quests that you can go on, and often involving B-level villains and that sort of thing that you'll find as you go. And I did everything, like
In Arkham
everything.
City, you did everything.
Yes, in
Wow.
everything. I
Wow.
did all them. Like, I didn't 3-star every challenge, I don't think, or 5-star or whatever. I think it's 3-star. I didn't 3-star every challenge, but particularly the combat challenges, I just love them. I couldn't get enough of them. And it's beating scores and stuff. And normally I don't care about beating scores, but in this game, I was just like, I must play this more. And the thumb candy nature of it, the feeling of like that fighting just feels so good. And you start to learn, okay, this guy's got a stun baton. I've got to handle him this way.
Yeah.
This guy's got a shield. I've got to handle him this way. And I started
And they
playing
pick
on the
up
hard.
they pick up the items, and you've got to adjust your plan in the middle of the fight too.
Well, one of the special moves is to destroy the items, right? And
Yep,
that became
yep.
like my most valuable one, especially for the tasers. I'd be like, okay, this. And I started playing it on the harder difficulties, and in the hard difficulties, they take away the counter, like that tells you.
In New Game Plus, they take it away. That's what it
Yeah,
says.
yeah. And I played that, and I got like I would know their motions, and I'm like, okay, block, move over, and it just felt really good. So I
Critical
totally.
strikes, that was the big game changer for me. There's an ability in there called critical strikes where if you time your attack during like a counter animation or any animation, all of a sudden you're careening across the battlefield to another guy and breaking his leg, and then jumping back to another guy and jumping back to another guy, and oh, you're all charged up for a combo takedown. You snap a guy's leg the wrong way. Like that when you, because get this, I played the game with a mouse and keyboard. The combat
What?
is still amazeballs.
Are you kidding me?
No,
Why
no.
wouldn't you play it with a controller?
Because I have my controller, but there's a piece missing. I got to get off my bro. I just don't have it.
Dude, you should have just asked me to borrow a controller for. Oh my god!
Actually, no. It's good with mouse and keyboard.
I can't. I'm sure. Look, I'm sure that it's decently put together, but that is a controller game, my friend. Like that is like.
But that's the impressive thing about it is that if it turned out to be a controller game and I wasn't having fun, I was ready to put it down.
Yeah,
but
right.
the combat is fun as hell. Like it was like, and I recently played Sleeping Dogs again, mouse and keyboard with the combat system, and I thought that was really good. The one thing I do miss is taking a guy and running him into a telephone booth. I really enjoy that part of Sleeping Dogs.
Yeah.
Not present in this game, but plenty of things to make up for it. No, the combat is fantastic. It's really the best. It's the best combat system by far. I like that there's no guns. Like in a game like Grand Theft Auto, you end up shooting everyone, and it doesn't feel like there's a lot of skill or gaminess involved. Like there's no video game in just shooting people. But in these fights, these key like set piece fights, whatever you do, it's very gamey. It's very hit X, hit, or whatever.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like counter, hit. Like there's a pattern and key, and you got to watch for things, and that really engages my brain in a great way, and I like it.
It is a different type of game, like first-person shooters. Like you like Doom, that's even more shooty than Grand Theft Auto. Like it's.
But like the skill involved in that is like there's an aim thing, and I'm not saying like they're very complex shooter games, but like,
I would argue Grand Theft Auto is a much more complex shooting game than Doom is, because Doom in Grand Theft Auto you take cover, you have your aiming reticule, you got to take out guys in different ways. You can shoot guns out of their hands. You can do sort of stuff. Doom is just like.
I guess we could probably compare and say they're the same, but like in Doom it's fun because that's what I'm getting into. I don't find it fun in game like shooting. I hated shooting guns in Sleeping Dog. I was just like, throw the gun away. I want to fight people. Like that's the fiction. That's the reason to play. And in Batman, the reason to play is to break bones. Like I'm so glad I don't have weapons. And I just like the few weapons that I do have. I'll use the bat claw and be like, "Get that gun out of your hand now! Come here!" and smack clothesline him, and there's so much of that fiction sold so well and done with so much love in this game that I can see why you did everything, because I finished it. I got through the campaign pretty quickly. I did about 50% of the side missions. I found Victor Saz and helped Bane out and stuff like that. I want to go back and play more. Like I can see the appeal of wanting to do all of that stuff, and maybe at a later date I will. But that game was great.
Yeah, no,
Arkham City was great.
Definitely great, and it's funny because there's all these like now ranking the Arkham games, like now that the series is kind of over, and I want to check those things often, and maybe I'll do a question mark on it when I play Arkham Knight. But I'm so concerned about being spoiled that I don't want to go on anything. And I think I already know what some of the big spoilers are. But bottom line is, I really want to go into Arkham Knight kind of fresh. And I remember that enthusiasm you have as someone who just played Arkham City. It's one of the very few games from last generation I played at least twice all the way through. And I played Arkham Asylum again after that, but Arkham City is my favorite of the Arkhams. So far, we'll see. Maybe Arkham Knight will blow my mind, right? So, anything else you got, Bo?
Well, I think I spent a lot of time talking about Arkham City. That game was super fun. I'm glad I finally played it. I did a Banana Brawl in Hearthstone. That was this week's thing. I don't know, not much to say there. I found it kind of boring. Played some Diablo 3 again, and I include that because Crofton likes to laugh at the fact that I've played that game for like 8,000 hours or something ridiculous. He's like, "Why do you play that game?" But I logged in and played for an hour or two, and I had a good time. But then I was like, "Oh wait, let me play Arkham City." So, and here's the store I'm looking forward to tomorrow, where The Butcher gets released. The Butcher looks like a hell of a lot of fun, and I'm excited for it. So.
So 3 Blizzard games today. Well, that's an improvement, Bo. You're weaning yourself off a little bit. I played Fallout Shelter. We already talked about that. I'm also playing this other iOS game called Dungeon Boss. I'm not sure if it's out in the States. A nepotism alert here. A friend of mine told me that his brother was working on this game, so I checked it out. It's pretty colorful and it's a fun like iOS time waster, but it does feel a little corporate in how it's put together, and it's not any more guilty than a lot of these iOS games, but it's the type of game that you, Bo, would play, and you would be like, oh, these iOS games, like I don't
so clearly designed to just look like a game and get my money.
And get your money, right? Exactly. So there is a game, there is a bit of that there, but it hasn't like really dug its hooks into me. And then Fallout Shelter came out and took a lot of my time. Of course, the game that I am still playing is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Unlike
how many wenches have you bedded?
Here's the thing. I wrote my last blog, The Question Mark. Gentle. You should read it now on The Witcher 3. I've talked 3 episodes possibly about The Witcher 3 and different things about it. I continually find new things to talk about and new things to enjoy in this game. I would say that I'm halfway through the game probably. It's a long game. Now, bear in mind, folks, if Bo Schwartz was playing this game, he'd be done it in a week probably. But I don't have that much time, and I put in a couple of hours every day or whatever. But there's a lot to distract you in the world. There's a lot of fun stuff. But what I wanted to highlight today in my games per minute time briefly is just the fact that what struck me the other day playing The Witcher 3, and this is not a thing that's unique to The Witcher, but is becoming more common in more and more video games, is that features that we were excited about, that they promoted, game developers promoted, and I remember being promoted, entire games being promoted on some features, are now commonplace in certain games. And The Witcher has so many features, and I'm going to rattle a couple off here that I remember as being really impressive. So one is that you can go into almost any building. Any building you see, you can pretty much go into it. Now, you can do that in Skyrim. You can do that in but I remember when Grand Theft Auto Vice City came out, that was the big feature, was that you could go into some buildings. I remember websites running features on like interiors and stuff. Oh, you can go into a building, because in Grand Theft Auto 3, you can't go into any building. And honestly, in Vice City, you can't go into that many buildings. But it was the big feature. And at that time, staying with the PlayStation 2, Metal Gear Solid 2 came out, and one of the big features was that all the in-game cutscenes were done with the in-game engine. So it meant that if your guy was wearing a certain costume or had a certain haircut or whatever, he would look the exact same in the cutscene, because they used to use tons and tons of pre-rendered cutscenes. But now as graphics were advancing, they would do the cutscene in the in-game engine. Well, The Witcher 3 has some of the nicest cutscenes I have ever seen. It really, really nice, and it's just constant. Like there's dialogue, there's constant stuff.
It's all in game though, right?
And it's all in game, and it's ridiculous the amount of outfits. And like you can get your hair cut different ways. Your beard grows in real time, so you can shave it at different, at different times or whatever. Your guy can look not like he's the same guy with different haircut or different outfit.
He has a wide variety of looks to him.
Wide variety, and when you see him in the cutscenes, he looks like that's how he was designed. No matter what outfit you're wearing, what haircut you're wearing, he just looks like he fits in perfectly. There's nothing that suggests that he was tweaked or adjusted in any way, right?
Right. There's no anime style haircut you can get that looks goofy or something.
And if there was, they would find a way to make it look
natural,
because there's one haircut that I have, and it's funny because I found 2 barbers in the game. One's in Novigrad, the biggest city, and he's drunk, and so whenever you get him to cut your hair, he will give you a random haircut.
Okay.
And then he'll be like, "Fuck you! If you don't like it, go somewhere else." and there's no other barber that I'm aware of in Novigrad. So
that's pretty funny.
So I have this haircut now that's like it's kind of like shaved on the side and then ponytail in the back. It's not super flattering, but I don't.
I saw a guy like that on the street the other day.
Potentially, yeah. I don't quite like it, and so but that's like in the cutscenes it looks awesome, like everything looks super sweet, but that used to be a selling point of a game, and the most recent one I can think of is COD's choice and consequence. So games like The Walking Dead from episode to episode, or Mass Effect, or a lot of these games, they sold themselves on your choices being impactful and having consequences,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. The Witcher has more consequence and to your actions than any game I can think of, and yet they barely mention it. It's just a thing in the game.
Have
And
have you been called to account for anything you've done in any major way? Like, has it
oh,
effed you?
uh,
Hey, don't
uh,
spoil it, because the more I hear about Witcher 3, the more I think I'm just gonna jump straight to Witcher 3 and play it.
the problem
But
is, first off, you can't play it because you don't have a system. It won't even run on your computer. And not that I would suggest you playing it, even if you could get it running on your computer. Um, you need to play it on something that makes it look good because it looks super sweet. Secondly, don't play it until you have no life obligations, because Bo, you get addicted and you would be screwed.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
the
yeah. I'm not saying I'm gonna play it tomorrow, but I'm
all
saying,
right.
like, as a celebration of some kind, for some
Yeah,
good news in the near future, I may,
potentially. Potentially.
you'd be like, I'm gonna get lost in the world of The Witcher. I
Oh,
mean,
it's one of those games that you will get lost in it for sure. And the last thing I just wanted to say about it.
but you've been effed. Like, you've done, like, you slapped a woman and you're misogynist, and then later on, a bunch of dudes come, Mike Hodgins and his army of feminists come to kick your ass, or I don't know, steal your money, or do
There's
something.
I don't want to spoil some, but
Okay,
like it's
just yes or
often,
no. I just want to know.
yeah, no, I said I did, yes. See,
Okay.
the thing is, there's a couple of things that they do to ensure that you can't just reload. Well, because you can, but often the
Oh, I don't like
consequence.
the consequence. Let me reload. Yeah.
Yeah, the consequences are often felt much later,
Hmm.
and to the point that they know that, like, okay, you've done a lot of side questing, you've done a lot of shit, and now, oh, guess what? That choice you made way back when, it did this, you know. And there's some things that are really little choices. The world of The Witcher is a horrible place to live, and you'll often take a Witcher contract, and you know, like you'll the guy who gives you the contract will be like, "Oh, my son saw this wraith out in the woods. Go talk to the son. You go talk to the kid. He's looking forward to starting school or something like." And then you come back. You kill the wraith. You do all the contract. You come back, and then you're talking to the dad, and he's like, "Well, here's your money as we agreed upon. It's unfortunately my son's college fund or whatever, and so he won't be able to go to
Oh,
school anymore."
wow.
And
Wow. What an
it's
a-hole.
and so you're like, okay, do I take the money or do I not take the money?
Well,
And it'll,
you're a professional. I mean, you don't work for free.
well, here's the thing, and that's literally the response that you can give. But the issue is, in a lot of games, they would reward you for making the heroic or noble choice. They would say, okay, you're not taking the money. Well, then you get
You
plus
get
five.
angel points.
Yeah, plus 5 angel points, and now you have a new angel skill. But this game does not do that. You say no money, that's fine. You get no money, and you
Yeah.
move on. And like maybe you'll see that kid in some school classroom when you're in the Oxenford University, or maybe you know,
Is the university named Oxenford?
yeah.
the
It's totally a whole that whole town is a spoof of Oxford.
the imagination department. Oh, okay. Maybe there's a bigger thing going on. It's just like, let's come up with a fantasy school. Like, what's a good Oxenford? Doesn't that sound
Yeah.
like Oxford? Yeah, whatever.
It's pretty much, but the whole thing is like I've been to Oxford and it is kind of like a
It's like their second choice was Woghorts, but they decided it sounded too much like.
copyright infringement.
Well, it's
but
Woghorts, not Hogwarts.
whoa,
Yeah,
my mistake.
see, that's the fantasy difference. But anyways,
Anyway, it was just the choice and consequence is crazy in that game. So all of these things, but and that's The Witcher. But like a lot of these features are in every game now, and we don't think about them. But once upon a time, a game was sold on a feature, and that feature is now commonplace. I think last year of Shadow of Mordor, which I really liked, and they had this nemesis system. I bet you in like 5 years from now, that'll just be a thing in every game, and we won't even think about it anymore. But like,
there's another game I have to play.
yeah, it's a sweet
All
one,
right.
especially if you made by Warner Brothers Interactive too.
Yeah. All right. So, anything else you want to cover on games we've been playing? I feel like we're still going to be talking about Witcher. I think we need to do when you're all done the Witcher game, like front to
Potentially.
back. Just talk Witcher, whatever you want to talk about.
So
We'll do
are
a
we?
spoiler cast where it's just don't watch if you don't want spoilers, and you can talk Witcher.
Where are we on time?
We're like 54 minutes in, so we gotta
All right, let's let's
huck
get
over.
moving.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Now there's one fine dialogue tree. All right.
Hey. All right.
So the dialogue tree is where we sort of pick a topic and we just discuss it. But and we've missed the last few weeks of dialogue tree because mainly we've been talking about E3 news. The readme.txt was pretty long, and so I think this week, because we're running low on time, let's just talk about. We could just talk about E3s. Like, do we need E3s? Does it still have a place in the world of gaming, or should we be moving on to something else?
If you had asked me this question, if E3s are still relevant, like 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
I would have told you no. I would have said, like, you know what? It's being spread out more and more. You're seeing things like the Tokyo Gaming Show and GDC, the Game Developers Conference. All these things are becoming more and more prominent. E3 is no longer what it once was. It went through an identity crisis a few years back and had a hard time sort of sorting out, did it want to scale back? Did it want to go big? Now they're back to sort of what they once were. It's a giant, giant show. But honestly, after this E3, which I think a lot of people are pointing to as one of the best E3s ever, I got excited by a lot of stuff. There was a lot of awesome press conferences. There was a lot of love for games shown. I feel like I'm pretty happy with E3. I look forward to it. It's something I mark on my calendar now as a gamer. So I'm leaning positive towards. How do you feel about it?
So E3, like I'm pretty ambivalent, honestly. In years past, E3 for me has been, I'll get the recap once the whole thing's done. I've got work to do, and I've got more important things to do. Mind you, this is the kind of guy that'll buy the digital subscriber package for BlizzCon and watch that. So I like hype. I guess there just hasn't been much for me. But now that we do this gaming podcast, I was all interested in watching all of the broadcasts and being apprised of all the information. And I have to say, it was kind of exciting to be a part of it. So
they do a good job, I find, of like making you don't have to be there. You can watch you watching the press conferences, at home is the same pretty much as like, yeah, you're in the room, you get a sense of the excitement in the air and that sort of thing. But it's not going on the show floor, especially VR was such a presence this year. I obviously would like to try a bunch of that stuff. But the thing that I guess what has concerned me in the past with regards to E3 is that I know a lot of work goes into the showing at E3. And I don't just mean work in terms of setting up the kiosk and like being present and all this. I know those press conferences are tightly orchestrated. The demos that are shown at E3 have to be prepared well in advance. And like, I just think that you're making this game. So you're putting all your creative juices into this game. And then somebody tells you, okay, we got E3 in 3 months. We need a playable demo, and we need a sizzle reel video for this, And like that might not be in your plans for developing the game. It may slow your production of the game, and it may distract you from what you're actually trying to do. But so, I mean, I could see how it can be a sort of a force of negativity in terms of developing games.
Yeah, you're saying because like everyone's focused on meeting approvals for this event rather than just making quality games, because like the business of making games is also about like the stock exchange business, or like I'm not even gonna pretend I know how that works, but the idea that generating a lot of buzz, like Bethesda's presentation, I'm certain generated a lot of buzz for their shareholders and stakeholders, to see the kinds of positive reaction they're getting for all the stuff that they're throwing out into the world. So it's an industry show. I mean, it makes headlines, it gets gamers buzzed, but I still get the sense that it's an industry show. And there's no more evidence of that than that damn PC Gamer show, which credit to PC Gamer for trying to put on a show. I like that. But they had their AMD sponsors up there every second time going like, have you seen this new AMD product? The computer is blah, blah. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of genuine talk. There was a lot of, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're awesome. You know, it didn't seem to address gamers all that much. So it's an industry event.
And Microsoft learned that lesson a few years ago when they were riding high off the hog from Xbox 360. They launched their Xbox One at E3, and they talk about all the sports TV DVRing you can do to a hardcore gamer market.
That was at E3. They did that. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I don't remember if it was E3 or just outside of it.
Oh, it might have been.
I know Sony and Microsoft had big presentations one after the other. I remember watching them, but I think maybe it was before E3.
Well, part of it was that Microsoft was saying, like, you can't lend games anymore because, you know, we're going to have all this proprietary copyright thing and all this. And Sony then just... Anyway, it was...
Sony won. That battle, Sony won.
It was a marketing battle that they won, and Microsoft has been digging itself out of that hole ever since. And then this it was interesting because this press conference, Microsoft showed a willingness to kind of here's some of the great games coming up this year that you're going to be able to play. We value gamers. That was pretty much, they're still in sort of damage control mode, where Sony is playing a different game, which is, I find, almost more interesting. They pretty much have nothing coming out this year. But then instead of saying that, they're like, smoke and mirrors, look at all this crazy nostalgia stuff like, oh, Final Fantasy VII Remake, boom. Oh, here's Shenmue, which we are not necessarily affiliated with, but you love that. Hey, look at all this stuff. The Last Guardian, you thought it was gone, here it's back. So they're throwing stuff, and the idea is to sort of engage the creativity or engage gamers in, like, get them excited. That's how they see it, because if they get excited about games, and then they think games, they think Sony, they think PlayStation, and it's sort of an ingenious marketing strategy, because instead of being focused just on what's coming up next, they're sort of trying to sell you dreams, sell you, like...
I think they're also campaigning for money to make these things. I mean, I was surprised. A few little tidbits here to add. The Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red, I read an article. They were saying when they released that trailer, there was nothing big in development. There's barely anything. Maybe there's stuff now, but at the time, and that's over a year ago, 2 years ago, that trailer's gotten a lot of hype, and now they're like, oh, we're totally making that game. But it's not like they had a game 3 years in and they were like, hey, I hope you guys like this trailer because we've invested a lot of money into it. I think a lot of the stuff that they're showing, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, there was an article, I didn't include it in the news today, but there was an article that the director didn't even know he was a part of the project till he saw the trailer.
That's hilarious.
You know, it's like, oh, clearly not very much of the game has been made at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a 4 year one,
like
for sure.
The guy directing it who's like, he's like, oh, I work, okay, sure, that's cool. So I think that there's a lot of that going on with that hype machine where we're like, yeah, Doom 4, yeah, Fallout 4 is an exception because we know that game's out, but like there's a lot of games. For Honor, for all we know, that's the one map For Honor has. And they're like, let's see if people like For Honor. Oh, people really like For Honor. Great, here's your budget now. Go make the game and release date.
I think it's coming out this year, For Honor. I'm not sure.
Could be, but there's some of that going on. There's some of that whole, oh, you don't have faith in my project or my company? Well, here's this hype reel, and now here's what the social media space is saying about it, etc. So,
well, I do feel that this E3 left me with positive, warm fuzzies, and it made me think like, oh man, I'm looking forward to E3 next year to see what's announced, to see what's advanced, all that sort of stuff. So, how I feel about E3s in general is like, I think the video game industry is now a bigger industry than even film, and that it needs a showcase. And for something that happens in everybody's living rooms, it's becoming increasingly difficult to provide that showcase. And so I think E3 is just going to grow and grow. And I I think that there may even be merit to having, I don't want to say a second E3, but like having an E3 on the East Coast, like Penny Arcade.
Yeah, like the PAX and
Yeah,
conventions.
PAX realized at one point it's like, hey, you know what? There's the West Coast is being heavily featured in terms of games. We should have something on the East Coast.
Well,
Meanwhile, right now, all our Australian listeners are like, "Fuck you guys."
there is the big one. Gamescom is kind of the other one. Now they're not, but I don't think they're affiliated in any way. But you do hear a lot. There are not as many, but there are announcements made at Gamescom, which is like the Europe. Instead of being East Coast, West Coast, you've got America and Europe, Eurasia, whatever. And notably, there are companies that often don't make announcements at E3 that do make the announcements at Gamescom. Okay. I mean, E3 is great. I'm glad that it's, the best of the best in terms of video game announcement places for all of us to salivate over. But, I like my surprises throughout the year, so I'm cool if companies want to, I don't want every company to be announcing stuff just in that window. You gotta have other places.
You always have Nintendo. They do whatever they want.
There's a few companies like that. All right. I don't have anything more to add. I'm, looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, for me, the big surprise is that 2 weeks ago I couldn't give a shit, and now I'm really.
What's that guy's name? Did you watch it on YouTube? It's not Chris Hardwick. It's the other guy who does the Blizzard stuff. I forget what his name is.
Me, who a Blizzard person?
He's not a Blizzard guy. He does a lot of TV stuff in relation to video games and geek culture, but I can't remember his name.
Crofton Steers.
No. Anyways, he's from Toronto. He's like anyways, that guy's in a lot of stuff. He did a great presentation. He was a good, like, in between the conferences, they had panels of guests and stuff on the YouTube presentation, YouTube live stream. And it was quite good. Like, the production was quite well done. So, yeah. Crofton's like staring at me with a blank face. Like, let's move on. I
watched the IGN guys, and I watched what is it? The kind of funny guys. But I didn't watch that stuff. We should probably roll into our inventory management.
We did that together.
Inventory management is a challenging and inexact science.
Welcome to Inventory Management, where we answer the question: spend your cash or vendor trash. You can't do both. You can only pick one or the other, unless you have two copies. Crofton, what's your recommendation for inventory management this weekend?
Yeah, on the heels of the announcement that Take-Two has registered, and I did this for Red Dead Redemption as well, but with how Take-Two has registered a domain for Mafia 3, I am going to recommend Mafia 2 to the folks at home. Pardon?
I heard good things.
I heard good things. Tell me the good things.
I hear good things.
Breaking kneecaps. The thing is that I played Mafia 1 on PC, and that was one of those games that really, like, and it's funny now because I as much as I want to recommend it, it's just too old. Recommending it doesn't stand the test of time, really. And when I played it, though, it really made me feel like I was like in the 1930s where it was set. And Mafia 2 does an amazing job of that as well. And it's set in the 40s and 50s. And really, the time, it's an open world, but the open world is mostly in service of a story. So much like LA Noire, like while there's other shit you can do, it's really like, for the most part, you're going to be going through the story, which is fairly long. But it's just really, the story is compelling, and the environment, and it changes, like, there's a time period change and a seasonal change in it. And it's really cool. Like, every little bit of environment feels like it's delicately made, and everything just really, it's really like old-fashioned Americana. And I really like that feeling, like the feeling I get when I play it. And the guy you play, like, yeah, he's a criminal, but he's not a douche, which
he's one of the good ones. You're one of the good ones, Vinny.
he's not necessarily a good one, but
Oh.
he's not like a douche. And believe me, that's a line that you gotta when you're doing a crime game. That's a line you gotta
I'm sure
walk.
you're surrounded by plenty of them. In
He's
like,
like he reminds me a bit of Ray Liotta in Goodfellas.
I mean,
So
he's a douche in Goodfellas.
he is a douche, but he's like you kind of like him. Like I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I'm not saying he isn't charming,
No,
but
no,
yeah.
but that's it. Like the douches in GTA 5 are not charming. They're douches, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I mean a charming douche is
You're
I
saying they
guess
have
better.
zero redeeming qualities whatsoever.
Yeah, so
No.
I think it's Vinny his name and he's got his friend Tommy or whatever and
It
they're
is Vinny, and I get that
it,
right.
yeah, and Vinny and Tommy like they become like, you know, buddies and there's a lot of like anyway, there's I don't want to ruin any of the plot points, but it was made in the Xbox 360 PS3 generation. The PC version you can turn up the graphics and like for all you graphics whores out there, it still looks pretty good. I mean like so I think you can totally it's very much playable and remains a really good recommendation. My console of choice to play it would be PC graphics turned up with an Xbox 360 controller. That I didn't think needed to be said until I talked to Bo earlier today. But yeah, so my recommendation, Mafia Dos. And if you're able to look past old graphics, Mafia Uno. But
Sounds good.
Dos.
I just want to note, I want to pause there to point out that you said graphics whores and not whore. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I don't want to
whores. But whores is such a dialect thing for like, I don't know. It's cool. I'm not criticizing. It's just graphics whores, you know.
You're drawing attention to it, Bo, so whatever power it had is now gone.
No, no, it sounded awesome. I gotta cut that out. Whores, goddamn whores. All right. This game definitely earned it, or this episode is definitely earning its explicit tag. That's for sure. I'm gonna recommend Arkham City. Don't need to get into why. I've spent like 20 minutes of this podcast talking about the damn game.
I would mention I've recommended that game before.
I'm throwing my endorsement in two for a full 2 exclamation marks. That's it. 2
Bam.
exclamation marks up.
Question, Bo.
Yes.
Are you going to play Arkham Origins?
You know, I played it for 10 minutes because I was curious about how it would feel. Like, is this game different? How close it is? It feels kind of janky. I'm kind of a little... I'm going to go back to playing Arkham City if I'm going to play any of the 2 games.
Now-
I could be wrong. It's not that it's bad, but I feel like my punches aren't connecting like they do. Like, I feel like it's off.
2 things.
Yeah.
One, you're not wrong. Okay,
Yeah.
it is slightly different than in the controls, and it's not as smooth as Arkham City, and it kind of sucks that you're going directly from one to the other. The other thing, though, the other thing is that it is graphically intensive, much more so than Arkham City. You may have to turn down the graphics a bit to get full smoothness. It's not going to be the same as it was. It's not as well optimized as Arkham City is either. So. But that being said, like even though it's not as buttery as Arkham City or Arkham Asylum, it is way more buttery than Sleeping Dogs, which you played. So it's just like maybe take a break and then go back to Arkham Origins or whatever.
Maybe. I'm planning. I've got a couple of games on my to-do list. Like, I'm kind of thinking about playing some XCOM because that XCOM 2 stuff. So I don't know. But Arkham City, and the reason I recommend it is the combat is perfection. The combat is perfection. For what it is, it works flawlessly, and it is fun. The gaffers, or the audio people that made the sound effects, did a bang-up job of bones crunching and flesh getting pulped by Batman's beefy fists. Yeah. Do it. Do it. Play Arkham City. If it's in your library, don't do like me and have it sit there for 3 years. I'm the Batman.
So I just drew this. This is Batman apologizing here. You guys on the audio can't see this, but he says, "I am sorry, I'm Batman," and he's just apologizing for the PC version of the last Batman game.
Batman has some good lines in that game. When you're finding Riddler clues and you're like, if you lie to me, I'll know. And he's like, I'll talk, I won't lie, man. Just don't hurt me. And then Batman's just like, I can't guarantee that. And he's just like, what? Who says that?
Batman. He's
Yeah, I
Batman.
know. He's the best version of Batman, really, though. All right. Then I think that pretty much wraps up our recommendations. Onto the mail. Or, no, we don't have any mail. So
No mail. You should write us, folks.
yes, but you should write us. Am I doing the mail thing, or are you doing the mail thing?
Well, you're doing Master Game Theater, so I'll tell you what, I'll close the shop here.
Great.
So yeah, exmpodcast.com. That's our home on the internet. You can find all our EXM episodes as well as the question mark blog on that site. You can also, we would encourage you to follow us on podcast as well as Facebook. You could like us on Facebook, facebook.com/EXM podcast. Tell your friends, share these wonderful episodes with your friends. exmpodcast@gmail.com is where you can mail us. And if you write us, we will read what you write on the show. It will be awesome. Then we will comment, maybe make fun of you. No, we won't make fun of you. Maybe we will. Probably not, though.
I won't. I can promise I won't. Crofton's trying to lie, but I won't make fun of you.
Just mail us. Okay, and of course, if you are watching this live, you don't need to know this, but if you are not, we would invite you on Monday evenings to watch us record on twitch.tv/EXM podcast. We do a live stream of the show. It also gets stuck somewhere on YouTube afterwards. So that's good.
And there's a chat room where people ask to be made mods and ask us for our email addresses in order to sell us stuff. That's what's happened in the chat room today. But
Sweet.
I'm sure sooner or later we'll get to some meaningful conversation about things
Well,
going on in that chat room.
Yeah, the thing about the chat room is it's for spectators, and maybe we talk after the show, but for the most part, we like doing our little show
We're busy
here.
doing our little show, so sorry about that. But yeah.
And to close off, if you like this show and you want to hear us talk about things that aren't video games, well, good, bad, or bullshit is for you. It is our other podcast. You can find it at goodbadbull.com. I am Crofton Steers. If you want to hear my thoughts on things, you can follow me at Crofton Steers on Twitter. Bo, where can people follow you?
You can find me at Bo Schwartz, and there you'll find news about EXM and Good Bad Bull, and also the Here's the Storm tournament that I am the organizer for. We're full up with 32 teams, so this is getting pretty exciting. It's really going to be starting in like 2 days. So anyways, find out all the information at Bo Schwartz. All right.
So you'll probably see a lot of Heroes of the Storm tweets. So if you're not into that, you might want to follow them in a couple of weeks or something.
Yeah.
In the meantime, follow me at Crofton Sears.
Just follow both of us and all of our stuff. Just follow everything and validate our existence.
Validate us, please.
Yeah.
We need it.
Yeah, just kidding.
Okay, speaking of validation, we're going to move into the acting segment of our show, known as the Master Game Theater Quote of the Week.
It's now time for Master Game Theater. This is my favorite part of the show. Master Game Theater.
Yes, it is a good part. In this part of the show, we will perform a piece from a famous video game. This episode will feature a very famous video game, one known as Half-Life 2. It's a quote from the G-Man in Half-Life 2, and it will be performed by one Bo Schwartz, who, may I remind you, has taken professional acting lessons. Not for this role.
But you wouldn't know it to see me act.
For other roles. He's selling himself short. All right. So we'll bid you listeners adieu on this. And without further build-up, here is Bo Schwartz. Take it away, Bo.
The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. All right.